You're listening to Sports Radio Detroit.
Sports Radio Detroit is proud to present the Whip and Neigh podcast on sportsradiodetroit.com SRD with your show host Pete Spivak, a broadcaster and horse racing handicapper, and Dana Garuder, a sports writer and horse racing handicapper. This episode welcomes guest host Aaron Hayes, who's a freelance horse racing writer and handicapper. And now here comes the Whip and Neigh podcast on sportsradiodetroit.com with Pete, Dana, and Aaron. Oh, yeah. Welcome into a very busy and another episode of the Whip and Neigh podcast here on sportsradiodetroit.com SRD. I am indeed one of the show hosts. I am Pete Spivak. You can hear me in the Metro Detroit area doing sports and traffic updates for the local iHeartMedia stations. There's about 8 of them in Detroit. I appear on all 8 of them. And with me, as usual, is one of my co-hosts, and that would be sports writer Dana Garuder. Dana, hello, my friend.
How you doing, Pete?
Doing well, buddy, doing well. And as you heard in the open, we usually have Aaron Hayes with us. Unfortunately, he is not here today. He has some personal issues that he is dealing with. I will let him decide whether or not he wants to let folks know about what he's going through. But he is dealing with a personal issue right now, so he will not be with us in this show. So you're just stuck with Dana and myself. I hope that you guys can handle that out there. Well, what we do here on the Whip and Neigh podcast, as most of you may know, we break down the American prep race schedule, which leads to the Kentucky Derby on the first Saturday in May. The American, European, and Japanese horses all compete for 20 gates at the Kentucky Derby by racing a 35-race prep schedule that runs between September through April. All prep races award points to the top 4 finishers, and the top 20 horses with the most points will earn a gate at the Kentucky Derby. There's spots for 18 American horses, 1 European champ, and 1 Japanese champ. That's how they do it, and that's what we do here on the Whip and Neigh podcast is break down that road to see how we get that field of 20 on the first Saturday in May. So it's a very busy show. We have lots of news. We have 3 prep races coming up this weekend, but let's get into what happened last week with the Fountain of Youth Stakes from Gulfstream Park. Dana Garuder, what happened, my friend?
Well, what happened is that if our listeners out there took notes,
yes,
they get a nice $90 exacta because Code of Honor, who was Pete Spivak's long shot special in the race,
yes, sir,
actually won the race at 9-1. He was coming off a disappointing effort in his 3-year-old debut, but he bounced back and took advantage of a very hot pace to claim the victory there for Hall of Fame trainer Shug McGahee and Hall of Fame jockey John Velasquez. Code of Honor had finished second in the Champagne Stakes last year at Belmont Park in his last 2-year-old effort. Actually, last really good 2-year-old effort. And so he showed pretty good talent last year. And then he, after that disappointing performance in his first start at Gulfstream, he bounced back with a series of very good works and lived up to those works by winning the race. And then my choice in the race, and this was a really exciting race because you saw if you watch the race, the early pace was just wicked fast. 2 horses really went at it, including the favorite Hidden Scroll. Hidden Scroll actually ran very well to be nicked out for a 3rd place in this race. So even though Hidden Scroll didn't live up to his favorite billing, I thought he actually ran a very good race. The 2nd place finisher was Bourbon War, my top selection. He was right there with Code of Honor at the end of the race, but just couldn't catch up. And finishing 3rd was Vacoma, another New York shipper. So if you listen carefully, we gave you those 2 top horses, and you would have cashed a sweet $90 exacta if you played them. And with that, I'll turn it back to Pete.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate the credit, and thank God that you and I came up with those two horses. You and I both made $90, so that was sweet. Not bad for a $2 bet. That's always awesome. Well, I know that our listeners and our fans, they do enjoy that we do the breakdowns for the races, but we do have a lot of news which happened over the past week and a half. We just want to touch on that real quickly. First of all, the obvious big news is that Santa Anita closed indefinitely due to 21 horse deaths since they opened up for their winter season in late December. Now, this Saturday's San Felipe Stakes is canceled until further notice, and officials will try to fit it in at some point, they say. April 6th, Santa Anita Derby is now a very big question mark as of right now, and the Santa Anita Derby, by the way, I mean, that's a very important race. That's a 100-point race on the road to the Derby. So they need to get that track in shape for that one, or at least find a way to move that. One thing I do want to mention before I toss it to Dana to get his opinion, you got to, our listeners out there may need to remember that California tracks aren't really built with golf course style drainage systems. We usually reserved for Midwest and East Coast states where heavy rains are rampant. Now, I'm not making an excuse for Santa Anita, but I just want to make that point. Knowing that drainage systems would not keep up with monsoon weather that Californians are not used to, why did it take 21 horses to die before canceling racing? So I just don't get the whole thing that happened over there at Santa Anita, and it's not like Santa Anita is some, horse track in the middle of nowhere that nobody goes to. This is a top 5 quality racetrack that holds major league races. It's a Breeders' Cup racetrack. 21 horse deaths are not supposed to happen. Dana, do you have any opinion on what happened?
Well, it's interesting. I read a lot of trainer comments, but it seemed like the top trainers there, kind of shrugged things off a little bit. They were still training out there. I mean, one of the favorites for the San Felipe was Improbable. He had to work right over the track on Monday. So, I mean, it didn't seem like the trainers were fearful of the track there. I think it was, as you said, a combination of just the bad weather out there. They're not used to these cold temperatures and heavy rains, and I think that affected the track in ways that they didn't expect. But also, I think there's certain bad luck involved, and sometimes you just have horse breakdowns. But I think in this case, I mean, it was just too many to ignore, and they had to take a step back, if only to appease the public pressure to figure out if there was anything really wrong with the surface. I think they're going to do some things to the surface to make it a little safer, maybe improve the drainage, whatever they got to do. But I mean, Santa Anita's been around for a long time, so it's not like this track is junk, like they just replaced it last year or something. I mean, this surface has been around a long time. It's just not used to having that kind of rain on it.
Exactly, which was my point about the drainage. So it's just 21 horses too many. I mean, we can understand, 1 or 2 horses passing away for training incidents. That does happen. It's part of horse racing, but 21, way too many. So, yeah, well, that's where we stand with Santa Anita right now. I do want to ask you one thing, though, Dana. For our listeners' information, we want to let you know one other piece of news, that Oaklawn is splitting the Rebel Stakes into 2 races to make room for the Santa Anita refugees needing a race. I never thought I would ever refer to a horse as a refugee, but that's exactly what's going on here. You got homeless horses needing a track and needing a class race. What do you think about the Oaklawn splitting the Rebel into 2 races?
Yeah, I don't know if it's totally official, and I think they're going to do it if they don't somehow reschedule the San Felipe within the next week. I mean, I guess it's possible they could reopen Santa Anita next week and still run the race there, but most likely that's what's going to happen. They're going to have to ship some of the horses that were going to be in San Felipe down to Oaklawn if they get enough entries. If they get 20 entries or something, they're going to split it up, and that'd be kind of goofy but kind of fun. I mean, the big thing about San Felipe Stakes is that it had the 2 favorites for the Derby.
Yeah, exactly.
Bob Baffert's, a game winner who won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and you had Improbable, who's just as highly regarded, and they were going to make their 3-year-old debuts there, and they got to get a race for these horses because they got to get 2 prep races before the Derby, and they're running out of time. So either they're going to somehow manage to get Santa Anita open again in the next few days and run the race there, or else they're going to have to ship to Oaklawn because that's the only prep race for next weekend.
Let me add one thing to your comment there, Dana, because you made a good point. Game winner and improbable have to race. And I'll give you one other point that I want to make. If you look at the point standings from the past 4 years of the Kentucky Derby, since they started the point standings, 40 is like the cutoff. And right now, game winner is sitting at 30 points, improbable at 10. So they both need help to make the Derby. So they do need to race.
Yeah, and the other thing is that they're going to, from what I read, I think what is supposed to be the Rebel is it a 100-point race there, or is it a 50-point race?
The Rebel is one of the where's my thing here? The Rebel is one of those. It's the second to last 50-point race. But from what I read, what they're going to do if they split it up, they're going to take the San Felipe points as well.
40 points or something like that?
It's a weird amount. It's 37.5. It's 37 and a half points to the winner, and then they'll divide up all the rest for the place, show, and fourth. But yeah, it's like 37 or 38 points to the winner or something like that.
Yeah, it's going to. I guess you have two chances to make one. I don't know if they're going to do anything to keep the Bob Baffert horses from all ending up in the same race. It's possible because if it's just a draw, a regular draw for two races, I don't know if you can enter one or the other. I think it's just going to be a blind draw. The top 10 they pick out is going to be in one race, and the 11 through 20 will be in the other races, and it just could very easily have 3 or 4 Baffert horses running against each other in that race.
I hear you on that, man. Well, we'll definitely see what happens as that pans out. Well, that's the breakdown of all the major news from around the horse racing world. We told you it's a very busy show, so we now have 3 prep races that we have to get into. So we're going to move on to that. But before we do break down our first race, I would like to remind everyone to log on to sportsradiodetroit.com, SRD, and check out the latest episodes of the Out of Bounds podcast. Join Dave and Dan as they talk the latest sports topics, which include the chase for the Big Ten title in college basketball and the continuing Michael Jackson scandal. That's the Out of Bounds podcast with Dave and Dan, only on sportsradiodetroit.com, SRD. So with that, my friend Dana Garuder, let's get into Saturday's Grade 3. 1 mile, and I want to mention that it's a one-turn 1 mile, $300,000 Gotham Stakes from the Big A Aqueduct in Queens, South Ozone Park, New York. Race 10 on your card. Points awarded on the road to the Derby, 50 for the win, 20 for place, 10 for show, and 5 for fourth. So with 50 being for the winner, that means you win, and you're in the Kentucky Derby. This will be a field of 8 horses, post time set for around 5:09 Eastern Time. The weather is partly cloudy, or scheduled to be partly cloudy with a high near 44, so nothing really big regarding the weather. But we have 8 horses in the field. The 6-horse Instagram is your morning line favorite at 1-1. Dana Garuder, what is your breakdown?
First of all, it's kind of goofy what Aqueduct is doing because they ran the weather stakes there a month ago, which was at 1 mile and 1/8, and now they're cutting back their next big prep race to 1 mile. I don't understand how they decided to schedule it that way, but that's what they're doing. This is straight out of the Mythical Handicapping 101 book. There's a field here loaded with speed. So what are you going to do? Well, you're going to look for the best closers in the race. So my top closer here, and I think he's 10-1 on the morning line, is a horse called Heikel. He's out of the Kieran McLaughlin barn. I'd have to look up what his numbers. I think it's the number 5 horse in the race, 5 post position.
Yeah, Heikel.
Heikel's run 3 races so far. He ran in a maiden race in November at Aqueduct. He was 6 lengths behind in the stretch, and he just barely lost. And then the second time he ran, he cut back to 6 furlongs. He was 6.5 lengths behind in the stretch, and he won. He got up and won. And then he came back in February after almost a 2-month layoff and won a race at 7 furlongs, a minor stakes race where he had to squeeze through a tight hole and rally to win that one, though it was not as deep a close as he had the first 2 times out. So this horse is the only horse that's consistently run from behind in his races in this particular race. So I'm looking, this horse is going to enjoy the stretch out to get the extra furlong. take advantage of the hot pace and finish at first or second. And the other horse that I really like is the favorite, Instagram. Instagram looked like he had some enormous talent last year, and he was tipped all around the track. I mean, he ran a race in last June at Los Al Racecourse. He was 2-5 in that race, and he won by 10 lengths. And then they put him in the Best Pal Stakes at 6 furlongs, Del Mar, in August. And I mean, he just blew the field away, won by 10 lengths. Now the horse went wire to wire in both of those races, but I don't think this is a speedball type of horse needs the lead. I think, the only reason he ran the way he did was because the rest of the horses couldn't keep up with him. So this horse is going to be ridden by J.J. Castellano for the first time. Castellano is not a dummy. He's not going to go out and battle these speed horses throughout the race. I think he's going to take this horse back and let him make a nice run from the middle of the pack. And if he's as talented as he looks like he is, he should either win or finish second in this race. It's noteworthy that Jerry Hollendorfer, who's a Hall of Fame trainer in his own right, is only 13% off 180-day layoffs or longer. So 13% is not that great for a top-class trainer. So this horse might be a little short, but he is shipping him across from the West Coast out to Aqueduct. So he must think he's got this horse ready. Beyond that, I just don't see how these other horses are going to win this race because there's just too much speed. I mean, Mind Control has speed. Bob Baffert has a horse called Much Better, who's running in a 6.5 furlong sprint last time out. He went to the front. You've got a horse called Not That Brady who ran in the Weather Stakes, and he was on the front end there, and he's been on the front end 4 times in a row. So this is going to be a hot pace, and it's going to set it up for the closers. So for me, it's Heikel and Instagram, and then it's my favorite third horse, which is the Wheel. Wheel the third horse and try to hit a good triple. And with that, I'm going to toss it back to Pete.
I love when you put the Wheel in your picks. That's a great pick, man. I love the Wheel. Well, coincidentally, you mentioned the horse that at the end of your breakdown that I actually like to be on top. I'm going to shock everybody with this one, but you're going to have to please hear me out on this. I really, really, really like the 7, Not That Brady. He's an Aqueduct veteran. He lost the Grade 3 Withers by only a head, so now you have to ask yourself how good of a horse was Tax, and how good of a race was the Grade 3 Withers. So I really think that Not That Brady, being an Aqueduct veteran, is a strong horse which can take the bullying up front to stay on course. If he has horses either to the right or to the left of him, it doesn't seem to affect his running style, and he should hit the board, if not win. I really like the 7 horse, Not That Brady, even though he's going to be on the front, to really be the winner. Before I get on to the other horses that I like, let me break down what I think the race pace is going to be. Where it's kind of funny, before I break down the race pace, usually we're used to seeing stampedes at the end of the race down the stretch. You're going to see a stampede to start the race. As Dana mentioned, there is a ton of front-running speed in this race. So I really see 4 horses going out for the lead. I see the 3, 4, 6, and 7 all going for the lead or trying for the lead and battling each other out. I see the 2, Nix Go, and the 8, Tick Vin Flu. I see them kind of stalking, and I see the 1, Family Biz, and the 5, Heikel from the very pack. That's how I see the race beginning. So it depends on which horse out of the 3, 4, 6, and 7 get the lead and how bullied they are by those who are pushing the pace. Now, with that being said, I think that we have to look at the 3, Mind Control, winner of the Grade 1 hopeful from Saratoga. He's a strong front runner, but I think that Mind Control is actually going to back off taking the lead, and he's going to bully the pace. I think that's what he's set up to do. I think John Velasquez is a very good stalking jockey, and even though the Mind Control is in the 3 hole, I think he's going to let all the other horses get ahead of him and push the pace, including Much Better, the Bob Baffert horse with Mike Smith on top. But I think that Much Better is, I don't know if even it's a 1-turn mile, I don't know if Much Better is going to have the stamina to keep up with the bullying. I just don't know if he can take all that traffic, which will be pushing and pressuring him. Instagram's another one I'm a little bit concerned about. I know he's a class horse coming off of 2 victories with Drayden Van Dyke, but now you're switching off to Javier Castellano. That's really kind of a I mean, he's a good jockey, don't get me wrong, but I mean, you got a completely different jockey on Instagram. Instagram, by the way, hasn't raced in 6 months. He hasn't raced since August of 2018. Yes, I said August of 2018. So you have to keep that in mind. Obviously, Instagram has been training, but he hasn't really encountered the bullying up front, which he's really not used to in his career. And now he's going to go a 1 mile distance, his longest distance. I don't know if Instagram is really in shape for this. So this, I mean, I think he's in shape, but I don't know. With a 6-month layoff, I don't know if he's going to win. But I really think that this race either sets up for Heichel the 5, as Dana mentioned, but I really think that one of the front runners, the 7, not that Brady, is going to cross the finish line first. I'm going to play with the 3, 5, 6, 7 as my top 3 horses. And by the way, the 2-horse Next Go, declining form since his big win at the Breeders' Futurity from Keeneland back in mid-October. And I truly believe that the petals have fallen off of this flower. I think Next Go, unfortunately, is turning into the New York Knicks, and it's not going to be a good race for the audience. So again, I'll take the 3, 5, 6, 7 in the Gotham Stakes coming up on Saturday at 5:09 Eastern Standard Time with the 7, not that Brady, on top. Dana, anything more you want to add?
Well, you mentioned Next Go. I think they've tried to rate him the last race up in Tampa and sit behind the speed. I think Next Go is just going to blast out to the leader. The races that he's won, he's been on the front end, even through fast fractions. He dealt with fast fractions in the Breeders' Cup race. I think Next Go is just going to blast out to the front. And that's why this pace is just going to be blistering. That's why I like the come from behind horses in this race.
That's why I thought he would stalk, because he's very good at breathing down horses' necks, especially what he did at the Breeders' Futurity. He's breathing down the neck pretty much most of the race, and then he came, and just flew by the leader. So it's like I think the Next Go is actually going to be in a stalking position, but I guess you and I will find out, right?
Yeah, I just think they're going to decide this horse just loves to be on the front end and battle it out from the beginning. And
all right, so that'll do it for the Gotham Stakes. Dana, let's move on to, actually, before we move on, Dana, I want to remind everybody to log on to sportsradiodetroit.com and check out the latest episodes of Tigers SRD, as Roger and Chris provide spring training news on not just the Tigers, but all the other Major League Baseball teams as well. Plus, they discuss Stephen Wright's current PED suspension of 80 games. That's Tigers SRD with Roger and Chris, only on sportsradiodetroit.com SRD. So now, Dana, let's get into Saturday's Grade 2, 1 mile and a 16th for $100,000. Lamb Holmes South Tampa Bay Derby from the top-notch Tampa Bay Downs in, Tampa, Florida. This will be race 11 on your card. Points awarded on the road to the Derby, 50 for the win. So again, you win and you're in. 20 for place, 10 for show, and 5 for fourth. A field of 11 horses set for post time around 5:25 Eastern Time. Weather is going to be partly cloudy with a high near 80, so a great Florida day. We have 11 horses in the field. We have a lukewarm morning line favorite at 5-2, and that would be the 7-horse Win, Win, Win. So with that, Dana Garuder, my friend, what is your breakdown?
Well, I see this race kind of similar to the Aqueduct race. The winner of the Sam F. Davis Stakes, the prep for this prep was well-defined. And well-defined went straight to the front and went wire to wire. It really didn't get challenged early on in that race, and that set it up for him. This horse has proven that when he gets to the lead and he doesn't get a lot of pressure, he runs a big race. If he gets any kind of pressure real early and gets pushed along through tough fractions, he folds. Well, there's one other speed horse in this race, at least one notable one, and that's the horse on the outside. It's called Zendon. It's going to be ridden by the top jockey this winter at Tampa Bay, and that would be Sammy Camacho's 28% at the meet. Zendon ran in the Swale Stakes last time out at Gulfstream Park. It was a 7-furlong sprint. The fractions in that race were just blistering, 21-3, 44-1 in the early going. Zendon was right off of those fractions. He was just a length or two behind those fractions, and he ran a very solid second in that race. I think, especially with an outside post, Zendon's going to have to be sent early in this race, and if he puts pressure on well-defined, I think it's going to set up for some closing horses. One of them being the favorite, Win, who showed a really strong stretch kick last time out in a stake race at 7 furlongs. The only thing we don't know about Win is if he can handle 2 turns. Win earned a huge speed figure in the. I'm trying to get to see if the name of that race was the Pasco Stakes.
Yeah, that was the Pasco.
Yeah, he won with ease in that race. He just rolled by the field around the turn and ran 7 furlongs in 1:20 and 4/5 seconds. That's really fast time. And even with the adjusted speed figure was 99 on the Bayer scale. It's a very big speed figure. So if he can stretch out and have that similar closing kick, he's a much deserving favorite here. He's also been working bullet works coming into this race. I like 2 other horses who have run around 2 turns and have shown some closing kick. Those horses are on the inside of Win. One of them is being the 4-horse Dreammaker. Dreammaker is out of the Mark Casse stable. Showed some talent last year, finished 5th in the Hopeful Stakes, and then he was very disappointing at Keeneland in October. Got bounced around at the start there and just never really ran a step after that. But his 3-year-old debut was excellent. He ran to Fairgrounds, an optional claimer, against overmatched horses, and he won by 8 lengths and probably could have won by twice as much. Wasn't really pushed along in that race. Earned a solid speed figure, so he looks like he's going to have a pretty good 3-year-old campaign. And the other horse I like is out of the Todd Pletcher barn called Outshine. Outshine won a 7-furlong race at Gulfstream Park, rallying from the middle of the pack, winning under J.R. Velasquez. Of course, Velasquez is not at the track there, so Joel Rosario is going to take the mount. But I think this horse has showed improvement in his 3-year-old debut and probably will run even better, at least from a speed figure standpoint, a second time out. So those are the 3 horses I'm looking at: is Win, Dreammaker, and Outshine. I think those are the 3 closers. One of them is going to finish first. One of them is going to finish second. I would recommend boxing those 3 horses in an exacta. But if Well Defined somehow gets an easy lead, he's going to be super dangerous. But I'm betting against that possibility and looking at the closers here. And with that, I'll turn it back to Pete.
Well, I appreciate your breakdown there, Dana. Thanks very much. Yeah, this really is, at least for me, I'm kind of not really confused by this race, but I'm just really having a tough time really deciding about who I want to put on top. I'm torn right now between the 4 and the 5. You mentioned the 4, Dreammaker, and he's really been on a dramatic improve since Florent Geroux took over in his last race. The style has changed from closer to stalker, and I really like that, and that change has greatly benefited the running style of Dreammaker. It's like he's been reborn. He was the favorite in the Breeders' Futurity. I want to make that known. So, I mean, he had a lot of optimism going into the into the Breeders' Futurity for that one. So I really think that he's definitely going to be hitting the board or possibly win in this race. The 5, Well Defined, who I also like, winner of the Grade 3 Sam F. Davis Stakes at the same distance for Saturday's race, 1 mile and 16th. And he's going to set that early pace and hope to hold off the closers. But one thing I want to mention about Well Defined, in his win at the Sam F. Davis from Tampa Bay Downs, he posted a really nice time for 1 mile and 16th, 1:42.3, and that's the best time for winners at 1 mile and 16th out of this field. So I think that Well Defined is not going to be bothered by the early pace, and I'm really torn to see who's going to win. But before I give you my absolute pick, before I decide in front of your ears, I do want to let you know what the race pace, I expect the race pace should be. I see the 5, 8, and 11 going out for the lead. I see the 1, 4, 6, 7, 9 in the middle doing the stalking, and I see the 2, 3, and 10 coming from the rear. So again, I'm really torn about who I want to win, either the 4 or the 5. I really think it might just come down to those 2 at the top. The 7, Win. He is the morning line favorite, but he has never gone 2 turns, as Dana did mention, and he's starting from the 7 post, which is farther out than he has been in his previous 4 races. So he's starting well outside than he's ever really been. Now, he's a stalker with a brand-new jockey, Irad Ortiz Jr., who's obviously a very good jockey, but, it's a brand-new jockey for him, but he breaks very eagerly and awkwardly, and he needs to be controlled at the start, which is why Irad Ortiz Jr. is going to hop on his back. They really want this race. Win does not start well. And if he does not start well, he's not going to win this race. And even if he does start well, he's got a lot of competition up front to try to catch Well-Defined or even Dream Maker, who's going to be doing some of that stalking job. So I'm really, really torn, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it's just so tough with Mark Casse and Florent Giroux making Dream Maker. It's tough to bet against him, but I am. I'm going to take Kathleen O'Connell's number 5, Well-Defined, to be your winner. He was also the winner of the Grade 3 Sam F. Davis Stakes. Again, I mentioned he has the best winning time out of a 1.16 distance. He's a front runner. He doesn't mind the traffic. I don't think he's going to be bothered by it. I'm going to put the 5, Well-Defined, on front to be the winner. I'm going to play also the one Admire is really interesting. He's been running 2 mile and an eighth races, including a maiden win and a 5th place finish in the Grade 3 Withers. So Admire is actually moving down a little bit of distance, and now he gets Robbie Alvarado on his back, who guided Admire to his maiden win 2 starts ago. So I think that he's really going to help push the early pace by being a good stalker, and I think Admire does have a good chance being the one horse to hit the board, and he is 12-1 on the morning line. Another interesting horse is the 2-horse Sir Winston. Interesting underdog because we don't know which version we're going to get. He's a specialist on the synthetic surface, but if Sir Winston helps push the pace, he may actually hit the board. Again, he is 12-1 on the morning line. But I'm really honestly looking at playing with the 1, 4, 5, 7, and possibly adding the 2 in there. How about I'm going to wheel the 4th? I'm going to wheel the 4th spot. I'm going to play the 1, 4, 5, 7, and I'm going to wheel the the 4th spot. Hopefully, I'm going to get that 2 or the 1 in there in 4th and make some money on that. But I really think the 5, Well-Defined, will be your winner. Dana, anything more you want to add before we move on?
Just the fact that I'm shocked you didn't mention Dumpf.
I didn't mention Dumpf because Dumpf has been taking a dump lately, but I hear you. But I think that Dumpf, as I mentioned, he's going to be up there pressing the pace, if not possibly on one of the leaders as well. I was kind of torn about putting him on the front or as a stalker, but I put him as a stalker because he's outside of the 9-hole. By the way, I do want to mention that the 10-horse Tacitus, he's taking Lasix for the first time, so that might help him improve on the distance. So you may want to keep the 10 as a possible question mark in your exotics as well. So yeah, so Dan, anything more you want to add, my friend?
Move on to the next one.
All right, hang on real quick. I'm going to grab some water here. That's what happens when we talk a lot. Before we do get on to our next race, I would like to remind everyone to bookmark and save sportsradiodetroit.com, because coming up in just under 2 weeks will be the start of the Detroit Favorite Female Personality Contest. Yay! We go March Madness style with brackets as you fans vote to see who's Detroit's favorite female personality, and you can only vote on sportsradiodetroit.com SRD. So bookmark and save our website to your browsers. I also want to make mention to check out our friend Ryan Dickey's articles on PressBoxLTS.com. The LTS stands for Louisville Thoroughbred Society. That's PressBoxLTS.com. Ryan will have breakdowns of Saturday's 3 prep races, the Gotham, Tampa Bay Derby, and the Jeff Ruby Stakes, which we're about to get into. And again, you can find Ryan's articles on PressBoxLTS.com. Also, Ryan wanted me to pass along an announcement about his latest project. He is also working with a company called Iron Horse Racing Stable. And Iron Horse Racing Stable right now is looking to get partnerships together to own horses. And right now, one of the projects that Ryan is working on is that they're putting together basically like a nuts and bolts sort of group together. What they want to do is raise $60,000 with a minimum of 18 partners for one horse. So if they have exactly 18 partners for one horse, it would be an equal 5% share at the initial cost of $3,333.33 per owner. No markup on the horse. IHR, again, that is Iron Horse Racing Stable, gets 10% of the purse earnings and 10% when the horse is claimed, sold, or goes to stud. So send Ryan Dickey a message on Twitter. That's rdickey249 on Twitter. Let him know if you are interested in being a part owner of a thoroughbred racehorse and try to make some money with him. So there you go, Dana. He's pushing the horse racing industry from good old Kentucky.
Yes, he is. I love that.
He's an enabler. He's a pusher. So with that, let's push on to Saturday's Grade 3 1 mile and an eighth $200,000 Jeff Ruby Stakes from terrific Turfway Park in Florence, Kentucky. Florence, y'all, Kentucky. Race 11 on your card. Points awarded on the road to the Kentucky Derby, 50 for the win, 20 for the place, 10 for the show, and 5 for the fourth place finish. So, excuse me, I did that absolutely incorrectly. I apologize because I'm so used to cutting and pasting. Excuse me, the points awarded on the road on this race are 20 for the win, 8 for place, 4 for show, and 2 for second. My apologies. It is still a field of 11 horses. I didn't get that wrong. Post time set for around 6:37 Eastern Standard Time. Now, check this out, though. Weather is cloudy, and the chance of rain is 100%. With a high near 56. So it's going to be a rainy Saturday for the Grade 3 Jeff Ruby Stakes. Dana at Turfway Park, what is your breakdown?
Well, first of all, I don't think it matters if it's raining. It's a synthetic track. They don't have mud. They don't have muddy tracks on synthetic.
Well, no, I understand, but I just want to make mention that it is going to rain there, and just,
I don't think you can really handicap with that in mind. But the favorite here was Some Like It Hot Brown. He won the Jim Battaglia Stakes back in February. It was like the prep for the prep here. And I don't see much reason to go against him. He won by 3.5 lengths. He just was kind of biding his time in that race behind 2 speed horses. And once he got some room to run up the rail, he took control of the race. The thing about Some Like It Hot Brown is that he was a very good turf horse. Turf horses usually tend to like the synthetic. He was one of the better turf horses last year. As a 2-year-old, he ran in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf and almost won it. He barely got caught at the wire and lost by 3/4 of a length. And then in his first 3-year-old start, he won the Jim Battaglia. So he's definitely going to be my top choice here. My second choice is a horse shipping in from Tampa Bay. It's let me get the right name. 5-Star General. 5-Star General is trained by Arnaud de la Croix, who does very well down in the Florida circuit. This horse ran in the Santa Anita Stakes behind Well Defined, who we talked about just a little while ago. This horse won on the front end in 2 of his 3 starts as a 2-year-old. And then his first start in the Santa Anita Stakes, he didn't really have a chance to go to the front because there was too many front runners there, including Well Defined. I think 5-Star General is going to bust out to the lead here and be tough to catch under a new jockey, Dylan Cannon. This horse has been training pretty well coming up to this race, and I just see this as being a nice long shot in here. And beyond that, I'm just going to pick a couple of closers to maybe clunk up into the money. One of them is Dabo, who finished 3rd behind Some Like It Hot Brown in his last race at Turfway Park. And then a horse who was shipping in from Gulfstream called Curlin Gray, a Kenneth McPeak horse, who has shown pretty good closing kick down at Gulfstream, won a maiden race at a mile after being behind by 14 lengths. And then in his last race, he was 13 lengths behind. He was dead last, and he rallied for 3rd in a optional claimer. So I think Carlin Gray is potentially getting in the money, but my top choice is going to be Some Like It Hot Brown. And with that, I'll turn it back to Pete.
Well, I agree with you, Dana. I think that the weird name, Some Like It Hot Brown, that really, you can make so many jokes there. I think that he's going to be an easy winner as your 8-5 morning line favorite, with Tyler Gaffalione on his back and Mike Maker being the trainer. I really think that the 10, Some Like It Hot Brown, is in a field of horses which the other horses really kind of, I wouldn't say have no business, but I just think that he's an overmatch for all of the other 10 horses in the field. So I like the 10 horse, Some Like It Hot Brown, as the easy winner, as your 8-5 morning line favorite. I know that sounds boring, but before I get to the rest of my picks, I want to let you know what I think the race pace is going to be. I think that the 1, 3, and 10 will go out for the early lead. I see the 2, 6, 7, and 8 doing the stalking, and I see the 4, 5, 9, and 11 doing the job from the back of the pack. So with that being said, I do want to talk about the 4, Dabo, who is on the improve. He runs very well down the stretch. He is a very good finisher. I watched actually a couple of his videos. He really is a very good finishing horse. I really like how Dabo finishes. He's already faced the favorite, Some Like It Hot Brown, with a good finish in an 8-horse field against him. So I really think the 4-horse Dabo is going to be there at the end, and he is 10-1 on the morning line. One other horse I want to also make mention is the 6-horse Skywire, who is the second favorite at 3-1 on the morning line. Undefeated in 2 starts, but from 2 extreme distances. One of 6 furlongs and the other 1 mile and 16th. So he's really been all over the board in distance, getting his 3rd different jockey in 3 starts. Does have erratic starting issues, which means that they keep on switching jockeys, most likely because they're trying to find a way to get him out of the gate properly, even though he has 2 wins under his belt. I think that if he doesn't start well, it's going to break his momentum to hit the board. So I don't think that Skywire, I mean, he's a 3-1 morning line favorite, the second favorite on the morning line, but I don't know if he's exactly that good or is going to be that solid to hit the board. I also want to talk about the 7 counteroffer. He is on the improve every race since his maiden win, but could be a horse that's slow to figure things out, but he could also hit the board coming from a stalking position if he gets the right pace. The 9-horse Curlin is a patient horse, very patient horse, and patience is a virtue, and that will help him hit the board. This horse has been on a major improve with Brian Joseph Hernandez Jr. on his back in the last 2 races, and he will ride again on Saturday. So I really think that the 9 Curlin Hope, also at 10-1 on the morning line, will be there. So I'm going to key the 10 horse because I'm extremely confident in Some Like It Hot Brown. I think that he's a definite winner. I'm going to put behind him the 4 Dabo, the 6 Skywire, and the 9 Curlin Gray. Now, if I was going to replace Skywire, I would throw in the 5-star General, which Dana mentioned would be an early pace horse, the 3. So if you were going to replace anything or maybe add something, I would probably do key the 10 with the 3, 4, 6, 9. That would be something that I would do. But I really like Some Like It Hot Brown on top, and that's my breakdown. Dana, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
All I would like to add is as I say with some of these minor stakes, I think you could bet your mortgage that the Derby winner is not in this field.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially, that's definitely for certain, because 20 points also does not guarantee any of these horses to make the Derby field as well, being for the win. So I agree with you there. It's not like you're looking at a top horse in this field, but it is a prep race, so we do have to concentrate on it. Anything else you want to make mention of, my friend?
Yeah, well, I said, if they're going to split the Rebel into 2 divisions, it's going to be the Rebel. It should be renamed the David Bowie Memorial Stakes.
Exactly. Or you mean the Billy Idol?
No, well, Billy Idol did the remake of it, but David Bowie did the original.
Well, that's true, I guess so. So should we have we should have a David Bowie and then the Billy Idol follows him up?
Well, maybe.
Well, that's what we are going to break down in our next show coming up for the May 16th, the weekend of May 16th. The only one on the schedule for us is the Rebel at Oaklawn Park, but it could be the first version of the Rebel. But if I remember correctly, I think 3 years ago, didn't the Southwest split into 2 races? I think that happened 3 years ago.
Well, yeah, by the way, you're thinking of Billy Idol doing the Rebel Yell. That was his song.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking of that. But did you hear me? I was wondering, do you remember if the Southwest ever split?
Being split up. At least one of those races down in Oakland was split up into 2 divisions.
Yeah, I think it was the Southwest. It was like 2 or 3 years ago. But whatever, they're going to do it again for the Rebel to make way for the refugees from Santa Anita. Do you ever think that you would call a horse a refugee?
Yes, no.
Well, they are refugees. And that's the way it is. Well, there you go. That's our big show today for the Whip and Neigh podcast. We told you it'd be a long one with a lot of information and a lot of news. And there you go. So coming up, like I mentioned, for our next show, Dana and I and Aaron Hayes will be back with us. We will break down what we think will be the first part of the Rebel Stakes from Oaklawn Park, and that'll be the weekend of March 16th. Don't forget to tune into other shows and podcasts here on sportsradiodetroit.com, including the Out of Bounds podcast, Parsons and Slow, Pearson's Piece, The Set Piece, Armchair Sports Talk, Mitten Sports Talk, Grave Discussions, The Laugh Track, Spinning the Wheels, SRD Ringside, which I will be appearing on coming up in a episode as we talk the Claressa Shields fight coming up in mid-April. I will appear soon on a episode of SRD Ringside, and you can also check out the Wings, Pistons, Lions, and Tigers SRD shows. And also don't forget to check back for more of the Whip and Neigh podcasts as the Triple Crown season progresses. So thanks very much for listening. A reminder, you can find me. I am Pete Spivak on Detroit's 1130 WDFN The Fan and other iHeart media stations in the Metro Detroit area. And you can find me on Twitter at Son of USFL Dad. Dana, your information, please, sir.
Yes, I'll be on Twitter at DGaruder.
I appreciate your help as always, my friend. Good luck to all of our listeners. And remember what Stan Laurel says. You can lead a horse to water, but a pencil must be led. Good luck, hail, and farewell.
This has been